Hi everyone! Throughout all of Doctor Who history, there have been any number of fantastic and strange aliens and monsters presented on the show. Many times these aliens have taken on familiar shapes, often resembling classic horror monsters such as mummies, zombies, skeletons, werewolves, vampires, and Dr. Frankenstein's monster. Today we'll talk about both literal representations as well as allusions to these monster types throughout Doctor Who history. I'm Larry Barthel from Council Room, the Twin Cities Doctor Who convention, and here are 5 classic horror monsters in Doctor Who. But before we get started, we'd love it if you could like this video and subscribe to our channel for more Doctor Who content and events, including our convention coming up in January 2021. Our website is in the description, so check it out. Let's get started. The first classic monster we'll look at in the history of Doctor Who are mummies. Mummies, as classically defined, are dead beings who have been preserved for later resurrection by some means, with some background relationship to Egypt and the pyramids. However, the concept of preserving dead beings for later resurrection does appear in other ways on Doctor Who, such as the 12th Doctor episode Dark Water, where Missy uses cyber technology to resurrect an army of Cybermen from preserved dead bodies in glass tanks. A more classical appearance by a mummy was also with the 12th Doctor in the episode Mummy on the Orient Express, where the iconic mummy with bandages appears as a preserved soldier forced to kill people by a technological glitch. But the most iconic appearance of mummies comes from the 4th Doctor episode Pyramids of Mars, where mummies in actual bandages that come from a tomb in Egypt are shown. The episode has all of the usual trappings of Egypt, sarcophagi, and even an Egyptian god. The mummies are actually robots that are in service to a superpowered being named Sutekh, who wants to free himself from imprisonment on Earth in Egypt. The next classic monster we'll look at in Doctor Who are zombies and skeletons. Typically, these are dead bodies that have been reanimated by magic or some kind of technology or virus. They tend to be humanoid forms and are generally slow-moving and easy to run away from, but are relentless in their pursuit of people. There are several sci-fi type zombies in Doctor Who, from the slow-moving zombie-like creatures called the Autons, from the 3rd Doctor episode Terror of the Autons, and the 9th Doctor episode Rose, to the literal reanimated corpses in The Unquiet Dead. The 10th Doctor episode The Waters of Mars took a different take on zombies, where the water itself literally drowned the humans it infested, before animating them and spreading themselves all over the Mars base, also attempting to infect the other astronauts. However, the most frightening example of zombies and skeletons in Doctor Who has got to be the animated skeletons that were all that remains of a person when eaten by the Vashta Nerada, in the 10th Doctor episodes Silence in the Library and Forest of the Dead. These animated corpses not only pursue their victims in a slow, zombie-jerky manner, but also retain and repeat the last few words spoken by that victim. The next type of classic monster that's been featured in Doctor Who are werewolves. Though their direct representations have been kind of sparse, there are a few allusions to werewolves which are characterized by how a scratch, bite, or even just a touch infects the person, and this changes them into a powerful beast with increased strength and ferocity. After this transformation, the victim often struggles with trying to keep control, until inevitably succumbing to the beast within. One example of this kind of bodily takeover is shown in the 4th Doctor episode Ark in Space, when one of the passengers on the Ark is infected by a Wirran larva. After a while, the larva takes over the victim, and he turns into a Wirran, a powerful spacefaring insect race, but not before obviously showing the struggle between the larva infection and his own willpower. Another example is from the 3rd Doctor story Inferno, where a scientist gets infected by a substance from a drilling platform, then goes berserk and kills a few people. Other examples of werewolf representation in Doctor Who are the 7th Doctor episode The Greatest Show in the Galaxy, where one of the characters has to struggle against the ferocity of their werewolf half, as well as a friend turned werewolf through genetic experimentation in the 6th Doctor episode Mind Warp. But the most iconic representation of werewolves was in the 10th Doctor episode Tooth and Claw, where a monk is shown transforming into a werewolf which then roams the halls, stalking the Doctor and his compatriots. It's even insinuated that the British royal family may have picked up lycanthropy from this encounter. Now we come to one of the most iconic monsters in all of sci-fi fantasy history, the vampire. Vampires have a fairly robust representation in Doctor Who history, dating all the way back to the first Doctor episode, The Chase, where the Doctor meets a robotic Count Dracula. However, vampire creatures that want to drink blood can be found in the 7th Doctor episode, The Curse of Fenric, with the blood-drinking hemivores, as well as the 10th Doctor episode, Smith and Jones, with the plasmavore. Although plasmavores apparently prefer to use straws rather than fangs. There was even a race that looked a lot like vampires in the 11th Doctor episode Vampires of Venice, but these were actually fish aliens looking to repopulate their race. The most iconic representation of vampires has to be the literal vampires in the 4th Doctor episode State of Decay. This storyline introduced the idea that the Time Lords fought a war against a massive vampire race, the king of which disappeared into a pocket dimension at the end of the war. The Doctor and his companions stumble across minions of this king vampire who hit every stereotype of vampiric features, right down to the hissing and fangs. The final type of monster we're talking about encompasses a broad range of aliens in Doctor Who. The elements of the story of Dr. Frankenstein and his monster involve body parts being assembled to be reanimated through science and machinery. This fits right in with cyborg-type technology found throughout Doctor Who and science fiction in general. This, combined with Dr. Frankenstein being characterized as a mad scientist, and that he eventually gets destroyed by his creation, draws many parallels to numerous monsters in Doctor Who. One example is the 4th Doctor episode Robot, where the professor who created the robot is eventually destroyed by his creation, after it goes mad from programming conflicts. Two of the most iconic monsters in Doctor Who are the Cybermen and the Daleks, both of which started out as brainchilds of a mad scientist trying to push the boundaries of what's possible in cybernetics. In the 10th Doctor episode The Age of Steel, a scientist creates the Cybermen in his desire to help himself overcome his disability. However, the Cybermen have other plans. For the Daleks, the mad scientist is none other than Davros himself. Davros creates the Daleks to be the perfect weapons of war, but when the Daleks determine they no longer need Davros, they kill every humanoid in their vicinity. However, the most direct and iconic version of Dr. Frankenstein has to be the 4th Doctor episode, The Brain of Morbius. Here, the mad scientist attempts to assemble a body into which to transplant a brain belonging to the Time Lord Morbius. The assembled creature does eventually go on a rampage before being driven off a cliff by a literal torch-bearing mob. And that is the list of the most iconic monster representations in Doctor Who. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe to this channel. And if you have any other monsters you see as these representations, please feel free to leave a comment below. Thanks for watching, and happy Halloween!